What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadski, back again here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and today we are going to take a look at the upcoming treasure map, which is starting on September 17th, so make sure to go ahead and get your team sorted. This website, if you guys don't know, for those of you who may be new to the game or whatever, this is a website allowing you to build your teams beforehand, before you put them into your game. It just makes it a lot easier. You can go ahead and just see the enemy gimmicks and stuff, and this is the teams that I've come up for up against this treasure map. So we'll see what happens. There is still something that'll, like, basically everyone in the community doesn't know how this Saturn fight is actually going to go, because there is some very specific gimmicks that don't really make a ton of sense. So we'll see what happens, but we have a pretty fair idea about how to tackle this. So let's go ahead and go from left to right, and we'll break down the mini boss fights, and then of course we have the final boss and then the intrusion. One thing also to note is that if you are in East Blue, which is the Bronze League, if you have never played treasure map before, or you missed the last treasure map, you do not need to build one team versus each individual fight. You can just have one team against all of them without having to change anything. So that's really good, as well as the fact that the gimmicks are a lot easier, the enemies have less HP, so you can only just build one team and you're good to go. Let's go ahead and start talking about these fights though. So versus the Mark III, Pacifista Mark III. The recommended units here is this Kaido and the Lin. So you got cooldown to all characters here, and the main gimmick here is that there is a Wano slot barrier and there's 6 turns of a Rainbow Shield. So the way that I'm getting around it here with this Queen team, let me zoom in a little bit more so you guys can see. So with Queen's captain action allows him to bypass defensive effects, so we don't have to worry about the barrier or the Rainbow Shield. And then with the special ability of his special, he gives a full border matching slots and also gives a color affinity boost. And I'd ideally use the Blackbeard special here, which gives a chain lock, and then with the support of Uta, gives a 1.5 times attack and all boost to Driven. So with this, we'll have good color affinity, attack, all boost, matching slot, and a chain effect, and then we're just using our 2 queens to just kill through the defensive effects. We have Vista here. Vista's a really good character, despite the fact that he's not a booster. He has double special launch, and we can use his special to wave clear the first couple of stages. So he'll wave clear, we reach the last stage, captain action, special, and then we can kill. This should kill infinitely. I don't think this is going to have too much of an issue in this treasure map. The Atlas and the Stussy are here just because they're higher point boosters that fit in the team. That's basically the only reason why they're here. So we move on to the next fight, which is against Bluegrass. So despite the fact that it is a strength-focused boss, my team is actually predominantly Dex. That's not really a big problem though. Recommended units are the Lilith and the Atlas, which came out with the Frankie and the Brook at the start of the month. So with this fight, Cerebral, Free Spirit, and Fighters are the characters you predominantly want to bring. And with this one, you've got some special reverse to for all characters. It's 2 turns of special reverse. We have the normal attacks only, there is burn, there's a barrier, a tandem slot barrier, which is really annoying. Okay, yeah, so just realize that there is actually a health cut, which is a bit of an issue, because you see with the Cat Viper special, is that you only go through defensive effects if you're above 50% HP. It's not going to be a problem though, because we do have the special of Hiyori, which can provide us with a really big heal. So might want to adjust this team a little bit in terms of speed, because that could be a bit of a problem. We do have the special reverse, which Carrot and Wanda deal with. We have the Luffy, which gives us an attack boost to quick units and I think it's Fighters or Free Spirit. It's mainly just making Luffy do damage, Carrot's going to do damage, and they're going to be our heavy damage dealers here. And because of Cat Viper's captain ability, we can just bypass this tandem slot barrier. Alternatively, you could just get a full board of tandem slots and do it that way. We have that burn, which is the 20k burn, which does get removed by the Luffy special, as I said. Special reverse, we have the Carrot and Wanda to deal with. So this team does work. It does activate a couple of specials. I do think that we can probably slim down the amount of specials that we use by alternating some characters on this team. This team is going to work. We can use the super type of Cat Viper to clear the first 2 stages with the mobs, because the super type of Cat Viper is like fixed damage, so it does go through the enemy's like really high defenses, which is really nice, and does a decent amount of damage. And then yeah, we reach the last stage and launch our specials and we just win. So this special, this team against Bluegrass, despite the fact that we have predominantly Dex, does work without a hitch. Versus Vice Admiral Dole next. So recommended characters is the 6+ Kizaru and the free-to-play Grand Feast Sugofest Sentomaru, both of which these characters are free to play. So if you have the units, which you should have the units from playing recently, these characters are exactly what you want to do. Essentially, you just have the setup of the 2 Kizaru captains. You have Sentomaru in your middle right position, and then by activating both these specials on the final stage, you just clear without a problem. You'll deal with the blow away. Sentomaru helps you bring the characters that are blown away back. We have the special reverse, which can be dealt with via Kizaru. The special bind, also via Kizaru, and that's basically it. So double Kizaru and Sentomaru deals with everything. We have Green Bull and Usopp because they're just filler units that have decent point boosts. And then we have Zorojuro, who's going to be my wave clearer for stage 1 and stage 2. Very, very good unit, essentially used in almost every treasure map. He's just that guy. Versus Lucci next. So Lucci, powerhouse slasher shooter is what you want to use. The new Brook and the free-to-play Borsalino from PKA are the 2 characters they want you to use in this quest. Essentially, if you have Brook in your captain position, you're not really going to have too many issues in this quest. It's really frustrating though, because they have essentially designed this fight in such a way where if you don't use Brook as one of your captains, you're kind of screwed. So it's kind of annoying because it means we're going to have to try and find a Brook friend captain for this content. If you have Brook yourself, you're going to be fine. But if you don't, I would highly, highly, highly suggest getting a Brook friend captain for this quest. Mainly because if you reach the final stage, it says that, you get all these debuffs. There's defense, resilience, and then there's also the silence effect. So with Brook, with the way that he works, when Brook is in your captain position, at the start of the quest, he sets your HP to 20%, or he cuts your health by 80%, which means that you're going to fulfill the condition of being... you're gonna avoid this, right? Where the silence is gonna be for all characters, but if you're below the HP threshold of 60%, then the silence is only for your bottom 2 rows. So your captains are not inflicted with the action silence, meaning that your captains are untouched, allowing you to use your Brook special to then remove the silence off of your crewmates. Now, realistically, it's probably not that big of a deal, but you do still need to find a way to be below that 60% threshold, because if you don't, you'll reach the final stage and all characters are inflicted with this debuff, whereas if, you're below that 60% threshold, or is it 40%? Either way, you need to be... it will allow your captains to use their special, which is important, because when you reach the final stage, you need to activate some type of special. Now, there is defense up, but the enemy has defense down immunity. Of course, a Brook special does do defense down through immunity, so that's really not a problem. And then there's also the resilience. So the resilience, we are going to be dealing with it via the Kuruma with the support of Mihawk. This Mihawk says when you reach the final stage, it will do a 15% health cut at the end of the turn, which is just perfect. So that support will allow us to, when we get the enemy down to 1 HP, the support will trigger, it will remove the enemy's HP, which is perfect for us. As for the rest of the units, we have this free-to-play Psy Brook. He will wave clear the first 2 stages, no problems. We have... The rest of the characters are just basically here because they're relatively decent point boosters for me. We're going to be using the Bon Clay, which will give us a full board of matching slots. He'll also give us base attack boost. His super type can also provide us the ability to get a chain lock. We have the support of Flampe, which gives us an orb boost. And then Brook, when you use his special, not only does it give you that utility, but it also gives you color affinity boost, which will give you a really good amount of damage. So this team, damage-wise, should be fine. And it's just a fact that you need to use Brook as one of your captains in order to get around the gimmicks, which is a really, really frustrating fight. Alright, so having a look at the final boss, which is against J. Garcia Saturn. So strength, quick, int, receive cooldown. Recommended units here, the new Luffy, the new Kuma, and the rare recruit Bonnie. So what they want you to do here is on this stage, stage 2, there's a 30% health cut, there's some special bind, they change your slots to badly matching, and then there's a chain attack down, normal attacks only. What they want you to do is by using Luffy special, Luffy removes the special bind, Luffy makes all the type slots count as matching for a couple of turns, as long as you are fulfilling the tag mechanic where you need like Straw Hat, Paramecia, Logia, Giant, like as long as you're fulfilling that, then you will make type slots matching for multiple turns, which is good. And then Luffy also gives you chain boundary. So Luffy's special alone deals with everything on stage 2. When you reach the final stage, this is where things get a little kooky in terms of the gimmicks, right? So there is block slots on your right, there is poison slots on your left side. You are actually inflicted with poison, which means you can use a poison support to remove the poison and change the poison slots into matching. So this is why we have Nami Karina with the support of Sanji. Sanji will go ahead and remove that poison for us, which is this one right here. Once per adventure, when you're inflicted with toxic or poison, you remove it completely. So it not only removes the poison, but it also goes ahead and changes the poison slots into matching for us. Now, this is where things get crazy. So the Saturn has 7 turns of threshold, which Kuma removes with his special. He also, the Saturn boss, will do 30,000 damage to us. Kuma's captain ability will allow us to tank quite a lot of damage, so that's not a problem. But then you see here, there is 5 turns of a rainbow slot barrier, and that you need to hit 4 rainbow slots in order to break the barrier. Now, on paper, this sounds ridiculous, on top of the fact that there is slot attack down, where I think it's like you only do 1% of normal damage with basically every slot. So you can't do any damage to him. However, there is an interrupt where if you do damage towards Saturn, he's going to do 80,000 damage to you, normal attacks only, and give you 6 turns of attack down. So what we think is going to happen is after activating Kuma's special to remove this threshold, Kuma does damage through defense, right? Which is going to trigger this interrupt, which will change his type, he'll give you some other gimmicks. A lot of people are predicting that when you use Kuma's special, it's going to remove this rainbow slot barrier, and also the slot attack down. That makes a ton of sense, because if you have to deal with this on top of this, like, I just don't really get what they want us to do here, considering, you know, the boosted units, the recommended units, don't give you rainbow slots. They don't deal with this slot attack down against all slots. There's just no way to get around that with the recommended unit. So the only thing that does make sense is by using Kuma, it will remove the gimmicks, and he basically becomes a different fight after that, would be my guess. When you kill Saturn, he does still do 120,000 damage to you, obviously, which is annoying. So having to somehow reduce damage taken is going to be important. So this is the squad that I have on paper right now. So we're going to be using Luffy, of course. Luffy deals with everything on stage 2. We're going to have Kuma, friend captain, to deal with the gimmicks on the final stage. We have the Nami Karina, because on Karina's side of her special, we can remove the attack down. And then also the Sanji support will remove the poison. And then we do have Frankie, Lin, and the free-to-play Kizaru. So these 3 characters I've only just put in here because they're pretty high point boosters. I don't really need any of these 3 units on the team. Frankie would be nice to keep on there for sure. We do have the Mr. 3 support, so we can use potentially Frankie on stage 2, and then we can use him again on stage 3 for even more damage. And then we also have like the Kizaru and the Lin, I can definitely replace. So we'll see how things go. I probably will end up replacing one of these 2 for something else that will give us even more damage. When we activate the special of Karina, she also gives us some damage threshold, but that could be a problem with the fact that Kuma also has damage threshold. We'll see how that goes. But overall, Saint Saturn does look like a really weird fight just because of the gimmicks surrounding Kuma and how he works. So if our assumption is correct and he ends up changing after doing damage towards him, then yeah, this fight does become a lot easier. If you have to somehow deal with this, I just don't get how that would actually work. So I guess we'll see what happens when the treasure map drops. And then the final boss, of course, which is the Intrusion fight, which is most likely the first boss that you will be encountering in the treasure map. This one definitely is more straightforward. So the recommended units here, they recommend the Sanji, the Luffy, and the Frankie here. So on stage 2, they give you bomb slots. Frankie's crewmate ability does make them matching. Of course, if you don't have Frankie, then you will have to try and do some ore manipulation in some capacity. Now, there is 3 turns of special reverse. Luffy's captain ability does deal with special reverse, so that's not a problem. We also have 6 turns of paralysis, 9 turns of despair. This is where the Frankie comes in, because Frankie does remove both of these gimmicks. So without Frankie, you will need to find a way to get around the despair and the paralysis. Of course, even just Rayleigh support on Luffy helps you deal with 2 turns of each of those, which is good. And remember, when you have your sockets fully invested, this is only going to be 6 turns of despair, so it does make things slightly easier. There is 1 turn of ore block as well, and there's a delay immunity. So what I aim to do is to just activate Frankie's special and a Luffy special on this stage for my personal team, and then when we reach the final stage, I guess there is also a death hit here on stage 2 where they special reverse you again, which is, again, not a problem if Luffy's your captain. Like, if you can get around here with Luffy friend captain here, like, this is also not an issue. And then when we reach the final stage, there is 2 turns of damage immunity, one turn of barrier, 6 turns of defense, 7 turns of special bind, and also 3 turn of chain attack down. So the way that we're getting around all of this, again, Luffy's special can deal with the special bind. Luffy can also deal with the chain attack down. Again, if you're only using Luffy as a friend captain, you would ideally not use a Luffy special on stage 2. You would save it for stage 3. So again, as I said, Luffy dealing with the special bind, Luffy dealing with the chain attack down. Now there is the enemy territory, which Luffy also deals with, and then there's also the damage nullification and the barrier. So the way that we're getting around that is with this free-to-play Sanji. So this free-to-play Sanji is really, really good once this website actually loads for the database. So if you have the fully invested version of this free-to-play Sanji, he does have a condition that requires you to have Luffy on the team or Luffy as a support. So in this team comp, it's going to work actually quite well. And another thing about this Sanji is that he's a powerhouse unit. So he just works even better with this new quick Super Sugo Luffy. So let's go ahead and zoom in to just show you guys, for those of you who may not be aware of what this guy is capable of doing. So he will go ahead and change all orbs, including block of adjacent characters, into matching. He actually gives you a chain boundary, but Luffy's is obviously better. And then if you have Luffy as a support on this character or on the team, he reduces barrier and damage nullification by 1 turn, and he has double special launch. So that allows us to go ahead and remove both turns of the damage nullification and the barrier. So that's really, really good for us. And with that literally deals with everything. So Luffy and Sanji on the final stage deal with legitimately everything here. So on this team, we do have the Big Mom and we have the Kizaru. Obviously, it's going to be this Kizaru first, not this one. It is what it is. It's the same unit. It doesn't matter. But with the supports on this team, we have this on Frankie to just give him some more cooldown. We do have the Sabo on the Luffy, the Brook on the Sanji, and the Perispirit on the Big Mom. So the way that this is working is that when the enemy will put the defense up on himself, all 3 of these supports will trigger to remove this. We have 2 turns from Sabo, 2 turns from Brook, 2 turns from Perispirit. Boom, boom, boom. We remove all of that, and then we can go ahead and kill. So by using Luffy and Sanji on stage 3, that's going to deal with everything there. So all these teams should work on paper. Of course, we may make some changes to the Saturn team. That's the only one that is a little bit finicky right now, but we'll see how things go. But that is going to be it for me. That is my breakdown of my personal teams for this upcoming treasure map against Kizaru. I also want to get showcase videos up for the new Luffy over the next day or so, so definitely stay tuned for the YouTube channel for that one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.